All right, hey, welcome into Rocked On Detroit Lions. We're going to be doing Mock Draft 1.0 tonight. It's been a long day. It's been a really long weekend, honestly, and hopefully this goes smooth, but I've done a lot of work this weekend, and I kind of shied away from my mock draft a little bit, so some of it we're going to do live, and some of it's prepared. I know the top 10 I have fairly locked in, at least for now. I mean, this is just the junk mock, right? I mean, the first one's always the worst one, but we'll see. I got to tell you, man, I've spent so much time getting all of these measurements and everything locked in for the roster roulette. I've got the second season now of roster roulette working and measurements, and it's interesting when you go back and look at where players ended up and how it filtered through and what we got right, what we got wrong. I'm pretty happy with the first year. You know, you're not going to get them all right. We know that. And that's all right. But we're going to have some fun doing this. And every year we get better. And the more and more information I pump into this process, the better it gets. The more fun it gets. But I tell you what, it doesn't take any less time. Hours upon hours upon hours. I wish I got paid for it, to be honest with you. And maybe someday I will. Who knows? Who knows? So hopefully we can make some sense out of Mach 1, because you really just don't have a clue as to what's going to happen right now, and especially without having the combine. And I know that a lot of people don't really care about the combine. Brad Holmes calls it Pajama Olympics. I get it. I understand that. But for people like me that don't have as much experience as Brad Holmes, that doesn't have, a team of 50 people, like the rest of these, NFL teams have, I rely on the combine to kind of match up to what I'm seeing on tape. I don't have people out there, doing times at practice and stuff like that. We don't have that. We don't have that information. We don't have the thousands of pages of information and medical reports and backgrounds and all that stuff on these players. So it's tape and it's combine, and that's really all we get other than what's in the news. So Jack2125 says he's having football withdrawals. Well, the best way to cure football withdrawals is to jump in the live streams and have some fun. So let me get this thing set up here. I don't even think I have it set up into the right screen. Of course I don't. So I'm going to put the mock on the screen. I'm going to try to put myself in the corner, I guess. I doubt you're really going to be able to see this that well. I tried to do it the other way where I could put like just a small screen up. Let me see if I can still do that. Let me see if I can just put a small screen. There we go. And let's see if I can adjust it just a little bit. And maybe we can just roll with it that way. Now, here's the problem. I'm only doing round one, but here's the problem with PFF's mock. They do not have compensatory picks. Now, PFN does. Pro Football Network has the compensatory picks in. Now, I won't be doing any trading in the first mock. I mean, that's the rule number one of mock 1 is no trades. Doesn't mean I won't talk about trades, but I just won't do trades just yet. Free agency helps me when I get into like mock 3, 4, and 50. Free agency helps me understand where teams are at least from my perspective, But you know what they say about everyone with opinions, right? So, all right, here we go. Let's just get rolling. Let me make sure I've got it on my side. Let's reset this thing. I'm going to select all the teams. We're just going to do the first mock. I don't need to mess with any settings. I got a question for you guys. When you do these, if you do these, do you mess with the settings at all? Because what I find is I put all the settings to the middle. That way it's pretty even between what PFF thinks and what the public thinks. And I do more positional value than less because I feel like that's a little bit more of what an NFL team would do. But I definitely don't leave the settings alone. I try to make it as even as I can. Joseph Murdoch says, deep draft for the D-line. Does Holmes move out of the first round to get the meat of the draft? Hey, I'm glad you said that because just the other day I said the same thing. I think the meat of this draft, again, this is like my third year in a row, third draft in a row that I've kind of had a similar take. I feel like the meat, again, is going to be between, for D-line at least, it's going to be between like 34, 35, and now I'm even pushing it up to 48. So I was kind of stopping around 40, 45, but now I've pushed it to 48. 33 to 48 is what I'm calling it. Those 15 picks, I think that we could see a lot of defensive linemen fly. And I don't know why they're saying, some people are saying, some, analysts are speculating that the draft isn't that deep for D-line. Like, I don't know what they're watching. I really don't, because I want Brad Holmes to get pick 33, 34, or 35. So trade out of 28 if you need to. You don't need a quarterback, so you don't need 5 years. Unless you really view somebody as a multi-year project, even though they're that early in the draft, I don't see a reason why we need 5-year contracts right now. Like, we have a really deep team. So do you really need that 5th year? I mean, having control is nice, but that's an automatic, $15 million or more that you're going to have to give up. And I think you fully guarantee the 4th year too. So I don't know if you need a 5th year. It's going to have to be worth it, though. I think that if you trade out of 28 to any of the top 5 picks in the second round, I think it's worth their second round pick and no less than a third. No less than a third. That's what I'm rolling with. And if we could pick up a third with a compensatory 101 and we could trade those picks and move back into the top 40, like 42, 43, 44, I think we're in the money. I think that's where you're going to see a linebacker, an edge, and a D lineman. 2 of those 3 will be taken with those first 2 picks. That's what I'm thinking. John Desage, PFN. So go to PFN, Pro Football Network, and it has the comp pick in it. It has comp pick 101 in it. Okay, let's just do this. Let me get my notes up. And I know that the first 10 are pretty solid with my notes, but after that, we're going to struggle a little bit. It's going to take a minute. It's just been a long day. I couldn't get everything I wanted to get done. I can't say it. I don't even want to see another Excel spreadsheet for the rest of the week, but that's just not the way it's going to go. Okay, we're going to start with pick number 1, obviously. Tennessee Titans. Remember, no trades. No trades. Very simple. It's never simple. All right, so last year I was the quarterback whisperer, I guess. Or the Swami, is that what they call him? The Swami. I picked Jaden Daniels as my number 1 quarterback overall in the draft. And he clearly was the number 1 quarterback to come out of this draft last year. What a season for the kid. I mean, what a really, really good season for Jaden Daniels. I got another quarterback that I'm liking right now. I got to turn off my heater. It's going to drive me nuts. Hold on. All right. So anyway, Jaden Daniels, clearly had him as my number one. He was the number one. And I'm seeing another quarterback right now that I don't know why everyone's not talking about him as the number one overall pick. I mean, we've heard Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward as the only two picks, or the only two players that belong in the top five. I don't agree with that. But let's get into it. Tennessee Titans. What's up with the Tennessee Titans? Well, I think the benching of Will Levis really made it clear to everybody that Levis didn't drink enough milk, right? Kid just doesn't have it. The Titans are once again in a prime position to take another quarterback early in the draft. My question is this: are you going to continue to screw up and not address the trenches? Yes, that is a major screw up. At some point, you have to address it. And the earlier, the better. It's like the old, it's the old way of doing football, I guess. People seem to forget. Build the trenches first, then add your quarterback. Right? Know that you have something good, then add your quarterback. Otherwise, you take a quarterback and you throw him to the wolves, and it ruins their career. Will Levis, case in point. So are they going to screw it up? Are they not going to address the trenches? I just don't know. But deciding to invest big in a quarterback again so soon, in my opinion, what have they done to secure their quarterback's trust and the ability to stay upright? That's my question. I feel like they have to be morally responsible here and make sure that the quarterback can stay healthy, especially a rookie. It's different with, a vet that has been through it before. They're not going to get as rattled as a rookie. But when you bring a rookie in, I feel like it is a moral responsibility by a general manager to make sure they have at least addressed the trenches, the offensive line. Now, the offensive line for the Titans finished is another bottom dweller, again in 24 as the 28th worst ranked unit. Now, some of the early season tape for the Titans offensive line was pretty poor, and things kind of got better to a degree as the season went along, but it's still far from even a mid-tier unit here in the NFL. So it's concerning given the level of resources that they've kind of put into Tennessee's offensive line. It just hasn't worked out. The pass blocking front for Tennessee finished 23rd in pressures allowed, 36.6% of the time. Now, they did that despite their quarterback getting out the ball fairly quickly, about 2.87 seconds of time to throw. Now, Peter Skoronski, which I think they drafted last season, might have been the season before, he's kind of been a silver lining for the Titans, and his run blocking was pretty good. His overall run blocking has been pretty bad. I'm not so sure that the Titans stay at number one. Again, I'm not doing trades, but it seems fair to me that they slide down and they grab some draft capital and they fix the team the right way and they find a free agent to roll with in 2025 for a quarterback. The Jets, obviously the Raiders, both need quarterbacks, kind of sitting outside of the ability to grab one of the top three. So I could see one of them wanting to move up. The Raiders have more draft capital. But for now, the pick is Jalen Milroe, quarterback, Alabama. I think this dude has it. And right now I'm rolling with him is the best quarterback in the NFL as a rookie here in 2025. I think that it's going to be Jalen Milroe. I love the dude's tape. I get it that he's like the 96th ranked player according to PFF. But this dude, I think that he has way more talent than the other two guys. Now, Cam Ward's pretty solid. Shedeur Sanders, I believe, is pretty solid too. I just think that they're all solid in a different way. I think they all have their gifts, and I think they all have their faults. Either way, they're rookies for a reason. They're going to learn a lot in year one. So I'm going Jalen Milroe. That's what I'm going with. All right, number 2. Brownies. So the Browns most definitely need a quarterback, especially after this debacle of Deshaun Watson's contract and the injury status of his recent Achilles, right? He's probably done in the NFL, but definitely done this season. And then you got Jameis Winston as a free agent in 2025. So there's another big shoe that's about to drop for the Browns, and that is the departure of Myles Garrett. So assuming that this is a done deal and that he is going to exit the team prior to the draft, and the fact that the quarterback class is just not that great this season, I think that a smart GM would back off of this pick, especially for the Browns. They can never get quarterbacks right. They never get quarterbacks right. They can never do anything right. I mean, much like the Lions have been, for decades before, right? We were so synonymous with the Browns, like we were 2 peas in a pod. But I think if you're going to be smart here, it's like, just get out of number 2, back up a couple of picks, gain a couple of picks, see what happens in the draft. Maybe Milroe or Sanders or Ward or somebody just falls to you anyway, and then you take the quarterback. But for me, I think it's best to back up. But again, we're not doing trades. So whether they're in love with Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward or whomever, I don't expect the Browns to be smart. I just don't. I expect them to pick at number 2. But I do expect them to draft Abdul Carter. That's who I'm rolling with. Look, Myles Garrett's about to leave. You've got to refill the pipeline. You have to. He's a standout edge rusher, right, from Penn State. He's known for his explosive speed and agility. He's only 6'3", so he's not a Myles Garrett size. He's 259. He ran a 4.48, so he's pretty blazing fast in the 40. And he recorded 17.5 tackles for loss and 8 sacks in this last season. Very quick get off. I love this dude's work. His lower body flexibility really makes him what I think is going to be the next Chop, the next Jared. I mean, he's the next. Man, you could put any name to him, really, but I think he's going to have a great career. I really do. I think he's, being that he's a unanimous All-American and a Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. Look, he's projected to do great things in the NFL. I think Abdul Carter goes to the Browns. Whether they need a quarterback or not, whether the right quarterback is still there at 2, which, roll the dice, take one. That's what I say every year. Just roll the dice and pick one. Why wouldn't you refill the pipeline and then select a quarterback later on? Fill the trenches. Build the trenches. Then select a quarterback. You are nowhere near competitive in 2025. Don't screw it up with a quarterback. You can grab a quarterback next year. It's a much better class. I'm sure you're going to be at the top of the draft anyway. So Abdul Carter, that's who I'm rolling with for the Browns. How's this picking up on the screen? Is it? All right, it's good. All right. We got to talk. We're talking about Davenport. I've really got you guys sparked on this Davenport thing, don't I? I like it. All right, New York Giants, number 3. Now, after the Daniels departure, the Giants are in need of a fresh start, right? They're a team that is always on the cusp of something, but it always seems like the trash heap. They haven't been a good franchise, at least not for the last 5 to 10 years. They just can't seem to get it right, even when it's staring them right in the face. Saquon Barkley comes to mind. Now, the question is, will they bide their time again and beef up the trenches? Again, there's a theme to these top 10 picks. Will they wait a season with a cheap free agent pickup at quarterback and enter 25 in a semi-rebuild? The Giants seem to have as many of these disastrous seasons as any other team in the NFL. Why not just hit the pause button for a second? You know that your offensive line was a big part of the problem in 2024. And it's now been an issue for probably 4 or 5 seasons. New York's pressure rate overall this season was 28th. 38.4% is what that offensive line gave up. Even though their quarterbacks really didn't hold the ball that long, they were getting the ball out at 2.76 seconds of time to throw. the pressure numbers are ugly, whether against the blitz or not. Their sack rates suggest that their quarterbacks might have actually been making things look a little bit better when escaping pressure and making plays. I don't see the Giants making the right choice, kind of a theme. And that is why they don't move back, even though they should. And instead, I feel like they select the more polished quarterback in this draft outside of Jalen Milroe, Cam Ward. Look, there's a reason why Cam Ward's meteoric rise kind of hit full stride in the Miami opener, torching Florida 385 yards in a statement road win. His signature moment really came when he engineered a 25-point come-from-behind victory. And look, he's displayed that clutch gene. You know, not many of us have that clutch gene. NFL evaluators, obviously, they saw it, you know, and he has it. So he's the Davey O'Brien Award winner, the ACC Player of the Year, and he carved up defenses with surgical precision all season. He eclipsed 300 yards, passing 8 times, while adding a mobility factor that was really his X factor that kept defensive coordinators mind-boggled all season long. So it is Cam Ward. I know a lot of you think I'm crazy already. What is Travis Hunter doing on the bench? What is Shadur Sanders doing on the bench? There he is, Cam Ward. Cam Ward to the Giants because, remember, we're not making trades. Yeah, I know. Milroe and his smaller hands. I don't know if they've actually measured them yet. I don't know where 8 3/4 came from. He hasn't had a pro day, hasn't done combine. I'm not sure if they measured him at, and was he even at Shrine or Senior Bowl? I don't even remember now if he was there. Yeah, I think he was. He was there. He absolutely was there. Small hands. Excuse me. Small hands. Clearly went down the wrong way. I don't think he has the Kenny Pickett syndrome, though. I really don't. Remember, the width of the hand is what they measure, right? I think it's from pinky to thumb this way. That's the 8 3/4. What if you've got long fingers? If you have long fingers, doesn't matter what the width is. Just saying. All right, I got Cam Ward selected. We do. On to number 4. All right, New England Patriots. Now, the line was likely a big part of the reason why the Patriots chose to go with Jacoby Brissett to open up the season. The offensive line. Still have a theme here. All 4 of these teams in a row. I mean, just terrible offensive lines. Now, Drake May came in, and he kind of made the offensive line look a lot better than what it was. He had some pretty good footwork. He was elusive at times within the pocket, and he was getting out into open field, which was kind of creating some headaches for opposing defenses. Now, not saying he's a great quarterback, but he's learning. New England ranked last in run block win rate and second to last in pass block win rate. They were 31st in pressure rate, 39.5%, and 29th in sack rate, 9%, despite being just 12th in time to throw, 2.91 seconds. So those numbers really don't add up to the TTT, right? The time to throw. But clearly their offensive line is trash. Now, this one's pretty easy for me with 2 quarterbacks and Abdul Carter off the board and selecting a quarterback in 2024. The Patriots, they have to just give May some help. They have to. If they want to keep him around and they want to keep him off the turf, it is too early to take an offense. I guess the question is it too early to take an offensive lineman? I don't think so. Could the Patriots trade back if nobody else has, to this point? Possibly. It's possible, that the Patriots also select Kelvin Banks Jr., who's established himself as a cornerstone of the Texas Longhorns offensive line, culminating in what was a very outstanding 2024 campaign. Matter of fact, it saw him capture both the Lombardi Award and the Outland Trophy. Now, he's a real humble Texas native. He made an immediate impact upon arrival in Texas and starting a remarkable 42 games at left tackle over 3 seasons. He anchored that offensive line for Texas, what a historic transition into the SEC, right? Where he had decent competition before, he now launches himself into elite competition where he stayed dominant. So if the Patriots really want to help out their quarterback and fix their offense of the future, it's taking Kelvin Banks Jr., and that is at pick number 4. New England Patriots. Remember, no trades. Let me find Kelvin here. There he is. Now, he's right now ranked the 15th overall player by PFF. ADP has him 15.9. How are we doing so far? You guys think I'm crazy, don't you? Remember, this is just mock 1. Last year, I think it was mock 3 or 4, whatever. The last one I did, man, we hit some right on the head. A lot of them. I don't know yet about the whole Vince Young thing, the Milroe, Kevin, but just remember, nobody thought that Jaden Daniels could play either. This is just mock 1. It's all good. All right, number 5, Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, the Jags are in a unique spot. They appear to be fine at quarterback. Trevor Lawrence just signed an extension last season. Undeserved, in my opinion. But the Jags defense is still a mess. It's always been a mess. And it's going to continue to be a mess unless they do something about it. Now, they've allowed the most yards per play in the NFL in 2024. The biggest needs are along the defensive line and boundary cornerback to line up across from, I believe, Tyson Campbell. Now, the Jags have bigger needs, right? They really have bigger needs and could certainly use a big addition to this defensive line. Matter of fact, Mason Graham comes to mind. Who else comes to mind? James Pierce. I mean, if you're a believer in Mike Green, which I'm not, Mike Green comes to mind. But I just don't see this kid sitting around much longer. He is way too good of an athlete, and he plays both sides of the football. And that is why I feel the Jaguars will take their shot at Travis Hunter. This is a no-brainer. He's the draft's best overall player when you look at what he can do on both sides of the football. He will profile as cornerback 1 to start his rookie season off, but he might be moonlighting a little bit between offense and defense. He might get, maybe 30 catches in on offense this next season. I could clearly see him getting, a couple hundred snaps on the offense if possible. But I think that he could snag a few balls, obviously be a weapon for Trevor Lawrence. And I think that he can handle playing both sides of the football, too. I think they'll ease him in. I don't think that they're just going to throw him to the Wolves. But Travis Hunter is going to head to Jacksonville at pick number 5. I don't know if a lot of people see him slipping that far. I've seen him as high as the 1st overall selected. But again, I think that if you're the Jags, you can't let this guy slip much further. You really can't. Okay, let's see here. Number 6. This one makes a lot of sense. I don't think that you can go in any other direction but where I'm about to go if this were to happen this way. Now, remember last year, nobody expected, 15 offensive players taken in a row? 15, I think it was, or 16? That was a lot. Nobody expected that. And this season, it could be another... It could just be another crazy draft where players are getting taken where we don't expect them to get taken. So the Raiders, obviously extremely interested in Jaden Daniels last season. Washington had zero interest in swapping picks with the Raiders, and even the year before in the 2023 draft. But look, I don't see the Raiders passing up on a quarterback in this draft. I don't think they can afford to. With a boatload of picks and cap, though, I feel like they could shore up the rest of the team in this offseason. Now, I've never been a guy that believes in buying a team, but I think that when you are the Raiders and you're in the position that the Raiders are in, if they can retain Max Crosby this season, they can build around him on that defense and at least go into this season probably with a top 15 defense if they do it right. But if they spend the right money and shore up everything in free agency and plug all those leaky holes, they can definitely take a quarterback. And this is a quarterback I don't think that you're going to turn your back on. I think that Shedeur Sanders enters the 2025 NFL draft after, completely rewriting the record books at both Jackson State and Colorado. He's clearly the son, of a legend. He's capped off his college career with an exceptional 74.2% completion rate. He led all FBS quarterbacks. His complete collegiate statistics showcase consistency. He finished with over 13,000 passing yards. 13,000, 121 touchdowns, and only 23 interceptions. And that tells me that he makes great decisions when he has the football in his hand. He's not going to just tuck and run. That's not his first go. His first go is to find an open receiver. I think that he can develop into a pretty damn good pocket passer, but I think he'll use his feet when he needs to. He's not like he's blazing fast either, but he's definitely mobile enough that he can be, I hate to use the word dual threat. I use mobile more often because I think that he can be a really good pocket passer. Shedeur Sanders goes to L.A., and look, I think that, both of these kids, Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders going back to back, why not? I think that, they end up in opposite sides of the country, but, staying in LA or being in LA, I think that fits Shedeur. I think that's a perfect squad for him. And Travis Hunter down in Florida, why not? I think it makes sense. So Shedeur Sanders, number 6, he's going to the Raiders. As soon as I can find him. I just whittle it down. Here we go. So he's ranked the 42nd overall player by PFF, 4.7 though by the ADP. So he's projected to be a top 5 pick. I have him just edging, outside the top 5 at number 6. Okay. What is this? Genty went 1? Not in my draft. Okay, number 7. Number 7, the old Jets. What is Aaron Glenn and who's the new GM out there? Why am I forgetting who the new GM is out there already? I wonder who they're going to take this year. I have no idea what the Jets are going to do. I mean, they need a quarterback. They need defensive line. They need a defensive back. They could use everything, to be honest with you. And I expect, having a defensive-minded coach, and given the fact that 3 quarterbacks are already off the board, I would not expect for the Jets to take anyone on offense. I think that Aaron Glenn is going to want to address his defense. I mean, that's what he's known for. I've seen where Abdul Carter has slipped to the Jets. I don't think that that's going to happen unless there's a bunch of trades. And unless a bunch of quarterbacks somehow fly off the board and they have really good pro days and they have really good, combine workouts. I only see 3 in the top 10. But I only saw, I think, 3 in the top 10 last year. And that turned out to be a lie. So right now, who do we have? I mean, we have, did I just totally screw up that thing on the screen? I did. There it is. It's back. So anyway, we have, I got to get something up in front of me though. There we go. All right. So we don't have Abdul Carter, obviously. But when you look at who's available, and I'm just going to go straight down the line here. You have Mason Graham, Ashton Genty as a halfback, Will Johnson as a corner, Malachi Starks as a safety. This is the first time that I've seen Malachi Starks jump up this far at number 7. James Pierce at edge, Mike Green at edge, Tyler Warren, nope, cornerback Benjamin Morrison, Michael Williams, Walter Nolan defensive line, Shamar Stewart. This one's pretty simple to me. I don't think that the Jets are going to walk away from a game changer on the defensive line. I think that you can make a lot of assumptions with the Jets, and that is easily saying that Aaron Glenn is going to take defense. They're going to have new administration in New York. They're going to have new coaching staff. They already are going to have a new quarterback at some point. I think that they probably find a quarterback on the free agency market and limp through 2025 and wait till next season if all the quarterbacks are already off the board, which it's expected to be. Is this a retool on the fly, or is this a somewhat of a rebuild? I'm going to go with they're going to probably make an attempt with a retool with the defense that they already have that is fairly good, add to it, and then in free agency they're going to do what they can on adding some playmakers around whoever they get for a quarterback. So I think that, Will McDonald needs some help. I really do. So they got Will McDonald out on the edge, and I think that they add to that by taking Mason Graham. I think that's a perfect pick right now to the New York Jets to add to that defensive line. Mason Graham, defensive line from Michigan. Kevin Barr, yeah, that's a good point too. Thinking the Jets trade back. They could. They absolutely could. Matter of fact, this is the first time in a draft that I've looked at probably the top 6 or 7 teams and said every single one of these guys could move back. If there's someone that wants to make a trade, and whether you're moving down a couple of picks or even 5 picks, this is the draft to do it. This is absolutely the draft. And the reason why is because it's not quarterback heavy. It's really not. I mean, if you go look at these quarterbacks, let me just open the quarterbacks for a minute. The next up after the top 3, Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, and Jalen Milroe, is Dylan Gabriel, Will Howard, Riley Leonard, Jackson Dart, Quinn Ewers, Kyle McCord, and Curtis Rourke. And that is between 72 and 174 in the draft right now per PFF. Now, I think that one of these guys, Jackson Dart, Riley Leonard, or Will Howard, I think one of those 3, and maybe even Quinn, could probably sneak up into the latter half of the first round. Riley Leonard is intriguing to me. I'm just not sure. I haven't watched enough tape of the guy. So I only watched a couple of games there at the end of the season. Obviously, he was in both. So, I mean, he played well, but I think there's still some things to his game that I didn't like. So, anyway, next up is the Carolina Panthers at number 8. Definitely need defensive line and defensive back help. Multiple mocks have had the Panthers grabbing a wide receiver. And that's only from what I've heard. I don't watch a ton of mocks when I do this. I try not to, at least when I get through my first one. You can't help but see a few throughout the season. I will take a look at Mel Kiper or Daniel Jeremiah at some point, but just not this early. I'm trying to feel these guys out. I need to get some more screens in front of me. I'm trying to feel these guys out, try to feel out the draft, and do my own work as much as I can. So Panthers, they could use a linebacker. Jalon Walker, if you haven't watched this guy's tape, wow. Please slip in the draft somehow, or Lions, please move up. Really like Jalon Walker. Carolina, they won, 2 of the last 3 or 4 games or something like that, kind of screwed themselves. I'd get a better pick in this draft. I'd rather win than lose anyway. Look, they got Bryce Young as a quarterback. I would have never taken that guy. And I think that has kind of set the Panthers off in a way. They're in trouble. Like, they're never going to get the play out of Bryce Young, in my opinion, that is going to make them playoff bound or, Lombardi chasing. I just don't see that out of Bryce Young. I think that they're going to probably get another quarterback in a year or 2. Yeah, he had a decent second season, but right now, build upon what you have for a serviceable quarterback. Build both sides of the team, but I think it starts up front with defense and having a player like Walker, out there kind of surveying the field. I think that does give them an edge going into 2025, but then you have to look at the cornerback room. And, man, they could really use some help there too. It's a toss-up. Let me get this off here. So what do? Do they take Will Johnson out of Michigan, and we have 2 Michigan guys go back to back? Do they take Malachi Starks? Do they take James Pierce? or the other edge, Mike Green. Now, I will tell you, I'm not extremely high on any of these players, but I'm not going to screw it all up right now. When we get into my third mock, you're going to see where I'm going to have some players making some big jumps. And I did that a couple of seasons ago with Devon Witherspoon. If you remember, he was ranked like 13th or 14th in December. I had him as my number 1 in December. And I was one of the few that saw him. And it was very easy to see why he should have been number 1. I don't know how people missed it, because the guy had probably some of the smoothest hips I've ever seen. All right, so back to the Panthers here. It's either defensive line or defensive back. And quite honestly, with a game changer on the board, I don't see how you can walk away from a guy like Walter Nolan. Now, I know he's picked he's picked somewhere between 16 and 20 in this draft. The ADP has him at 20.5. PFF has him at 19. But if you really want to solidify your defensive line, I think that's where it starts. However, I think that James Pierce is the guy. I think that they're going to add an edge to their team. Matter of fact, I got to let my dog out here just 1 second. 1 second, buddy. Matter of fact, when you look at their depth chart, you got Jadeveon Clowney, DJ Johnson, A'Shawn Robinson, former Lion, Cy Tuttle, Labron Ray, and Jacoby Windman, and Josie Jewell, and DJ Wonham. So, yeah, the Panthers definitely need an edge, and they definitely need a defensive tackle. So, James Pierce is my selection for the Panthers. I'm going to take a quick 30-second break. I'll be right back. Let the pup out. I'll be back here in just a moment.
Every day, thousands of people are discovering Uper Lights, Michigan's newest, funnest rock to go find on the shores of the Great Lakes. Don't go out with just any light. Try the Convoy C8 from uperlights.com. It's guaranteed for life, and you'll find all the ones everyone else misses. Quality UV lights that are perfect for Uper Lights, with prices starting as low as $20. Please make sure to visit uperlights.com for all your UV flashlight needs, with the best guarantees on the market. Just what you wanted and not what you didn't. The best quality, the best guarantees, and the best UV flashlights from uperlights.com. Every day, thousands of people are discovering.
All right. Saints. Saints at pick 9. So, look, I think the Saints are going to take corner. I mean, it's pretty simple. When you look at their depth chart, anyway, when you look at their depth chart, they could definitely use a corner this season. Pretty light. We got Alontae Taylor, Rico Payton, Shamar Jean-Charles, Will Harris, JT Gray as a safeties, Tyrann Mathieu as a free safety, Kool-Aid McKinstry is who they brought in last year. So with Alontae Taylor, how good of a season did he have, actually? I don't think he had that great of a season. Yeah. Terrible grade. Terrible grade for Alontae Taylor. I think that they're going to want to add somebody on the outside. Will Johnson is a big factor for Michigan. Obviously, the season that they just had, pretty incredible year. And he was a big part of that. He was a big part of the year before. So, great player. I think he's got the right size, the right demeanor. He's going to head down to New Orleans. He's going to help reshape that defensive backfield. There's not going to be many Will Johnsons in this draft. You got to take them when you can get them. Will Johnson goes to the Saints. Apparently, I need another 30 seconds. Be right back. Is here and you want the latest news and rumors on your Detroit Lions. Head to sportspider.com. That's sports, SPYDER.com, where you can get your Lions news and all your sports in one place. Man, this site is packed with your favorite podcasts, live news, articles from local writers, and insiders all updating in real time. Not just the Lions, every major sports team, including MMA, UFC, and so much more. Don't want to waste time searching? Sign up for free. Create your ultimate sports news hub. You control what hits your feed at SportsSpider, your number one source for all your sports. Visit sportspider.com today, right after the show. All right, now we're to the team everybody loves. Chicago Bears. Right? They're probably going to take a punter at pick 10. I'm just kidding. I hope they do, though. And a kicker. You think the Bears are going to trade up or trade back? Has anyone given it any thought? You think the Bears are crazy enough to take Ashton Genty at pick number 10 and follow in Brad Holmes' footsteps and try to bring in a dynamic football player right away in the first draft and do the unthinkable? Could. They absolutely could. But if they don't address their offensive line, they're going to have another year of sorrows, in my opinion. They've tried to purchase a team over the last few seasons. It's time that they figure out how to address the offensive line. And I think that would be the smartest thing they do. Clearly, the PFF thinks that they need a running back, a center, and a guard, and an edge. With Pierce gone, I mean, I think the next viable edge is Mykel Williams. He is a very interesting prospect. Shamar Stewart, I'm not as high on right now. And then there's Jack Sawyer. And you know what's funny? I view Jack Sawyer as kind of a twin of Aiden Hutchinson. Does that make sense? I think he's a twin. And just for that reason alone, I think that Ben Johnson's going to want to try to pull somebody like that in and try to address the defense before they go offense, which I think would be a huge mistake. A huge mistake. But taking a guard or a center this early would be a travesty. I mean, that would just be a very, very, very bad pick. But I think that Jack Sawyer at number 10 is a little early. But I think that's what happens. I think that Jack Sawyer becomes a Chicago Bear at number 10. Big pick. I think it's going to be a good pick. But they can have the twin of the T-Rex arms over in Chicago. I definitely not a big fan of having him on Detroit sideline for 2025. Okay, San Francisco 49ers, they could use a bit of everything. I think offensive line obviously is the play here, but with offensive line being a bit early, as far as guards or centers right now, you still have Will Campbell on the clock. Lost my other sheet. Where did my other sheet go? Okay. And it's not there. One sec. Sorry about this. I have so many screens open. Sometimes it's hard to find where my sheet actually is. And that's not it either. Oh, boy. Offensive line rankings. I don't need that anymore. I'm done with that one. You know what? I'll just pull it up again. Give me one sec. Okay. All right, here we go. Back in the saddle. At pick 11, San Francisco 49ers. Look, they have a lot of big needs. Obviously, the trenches on both sides of the football. You could extend that to the front seven help. Kelvin Banks Jr. And Will Campbell both off the board, but in some mock drafts are both off the board. Not in mine, but I think that Jalon Walker this is where he's going to make his entrance to the NFL. It makes a lot of sense. Walker is a front seven move or piece that when you add him to this defense, defense that's lost, quite a few players and going to lose quite a few players. He'll help you both at edge and linebacker. He's somebody that can fit into a 3-4. He can run as an outside linebacker. He can hit the wide 9. He can do it all. He can play up. He can play back. He's a little bit undersized at 6'2", but he plays bigger than that. He's shown an innate ability to get after the quarterbacks. He's proven to be extremely effective at spying the quarterback as well, which, in a league where we're seeing more and more dual threat options for quarterbacks, I think that Jalon Walker is the pick here. Will Campbell also makes a lot of sense here for Brock Purdy. He clearly needs some offensive line help. And I think that, you really couldn't go wrong between Jalon Walker and or a tackle here in Will Campbell. Now, when I look at where Jalon Walker is right now, it's crazy that he's so far back. Where is he? He's ranked 52 right now. Now, the ADP has him at 43.8, so a top 44 pick. I have Jalon Walker in the first round, clearly. And right now I have him going at number 11 to the San Francisco 49ers. Up next is the Dallas Cowboys. Clearly they haven't had an answer at running back since Ezekiel Elliott has been gone. Rico Dowdle, impending free agent, possibly gone this season. They are in need of a running back, but they're also in need, of quite a few other things, like a new owner. But they're not going to find that in the draft. They need help at tackle. They need help at edge. They need help at wide receiver. Now, if we know a couple of things about the Cowboys, they like to go flashy. Not smart to go flashy all the time, but a guy like Gentry, he's an intriguing prospect. This is a guy that is number 2 all time behind Barry Sanders as far as an FBS single season record, right? Barry had 2,628 yards, and Gentry finished just behind him at 2,601. This isn't so much a flashy pick as it is. This is a true diamond pick. Taking a running back in the top 10, I wouldn't shy away from it, especially with a guy like Gentry. But then again, I'd hate to see him go to the Cowboys, but that's where he's going. I think that Ashton Genty makes a lot of sense here. And if it's not Ashton Genty, remember, this is just mock 1 with no trades. I think it's a tackle. And I think that it could be Will Campbell if he's still on the board. But I'm going to go Ashton Gentry. I don't think that, or Genty, I don't know why I keep saying Gentry. I don't think he's going to slip much further than this. And if he does, he definitely won't get past the Dolphins. So Genty it is to the Cowboys. Okay, here we go. Dolphins. Now, the Dolphins need help at corner. They need help at safety. They clearly need help at tackle on the offensive line, defensive line. They kind of need help everywhere, right? The trenches, but absolutely in the back end of this defense. Now, Javon Holland and Jordan Poyer are both free agents this season. It's doubtful that you're going to see them both come back. We went through this a couple of weeks ago where there is not one team in the NFL that has 2 max paid DBs on their roster, at least in the safety room. There's not one team that has a max deal and then another max deal as, free safety and strong safety. So I just don't see it happening. I don't see where they're going to be able to bring in Jordan and Javon, probably both at a max deal. I'm not even sure what they're rated at right now, but it's going to be expensive to try to keep both of them. Just not going to happen. It's not in the cards for just about any team. But as far as Starks, right? Malachi Starks, love this dude's work, love his tape. I think he's an exceptionally good fit here. He can play safety, he can play nickel, he can play in the box, off-ball linebacker. Malachi definitely has the size here. Pull up my other board. Give you a little bit of background here on Malachi. I would love to see a player slip like this. 6'1", 205 pounds. He runs a sub 4.4. He's been clocked as fast as a 4.35. So he definitely has the wheels. He was a track star in high school. Then he went to the SEC, obviously, to become one of the best defensive enforcers there's been in a long time. He's a decorated 5-star recruit. He brought a state championship in a long jump and a blazing 10.55 100-meter dash, which is insanely fast. He started 40 of 41 games while he became the backbone of Georgia's championship caliber defense. So this guy has a lot of positives, a lot of strengths. He's got a rare combination of track speed and violent physicality. Clearly shows up in the tape. This dude is a hitter. He reminds me of Brian Branch, just faster than Branch. He shows advanced hand usage at times. He's got elite change of direction. You want to talk about oily hips? This dude has a grease gun attached to him. This guy can flip and swivel and run. It's pretty fun to watch. Natural instincts, they're all there. This guy has it all. He's a total package, and he's going to love Miami. So he's going to be heading to the Dolphins. All right, let's see who's up next here. All right, we got the Colts up next. You know, this is kind of a mixed bag for me with the Colts because last year I thought that their defense was going to be a lot better than what it was. Clearly it wasn't. So one would think that with the edge position still pretty thick in this draft, the DB room, which needs to be addressed again, I don't think they're going to take tight end. I really don't. I don't see the Colts making that mistake. It's too early for them to address, an offensive weapon here, in my opinion. Obviously, Tyler Warren is a very intriguing prospect out of Penn State. He's 6'6". He's 260 pounds. He's a do-everything tight end. He's a matchup nightmare in the slot. And he's a decent blocker when he's deployed in line or out in, second and third tier as a run blocker. So he had 98 catches with only 3 drops in 2024. So he reminds a lot of people of the next Brock Bowers. And he could be, but I just think it's too early for the Colts to invest in a tight end here. I think that they're going to want to go defense, especially with some of these players that are available. Michael Williams off the edge, very intriguing. Walter Nolan, defensive line, makes a lot of sense here. And so does the DB. To be honest with you, I think a DB makes a lot of sense. I don't see him going offense, at least not right now. I think that they're going to go heavy on the defense here in the first round. So my pick for the Colts is they're going to want to take a Georgia product. We're going to have 2 Georgia boys going back-to-back in this mock. Malachi Starks and Michael Williams. They're going to save the tight end for, a later round, in my opinion. There's still a couple of really good tight ends. Arroyo, however you pronounce his name. He's going to be a good pick, and he'll be in the slot for Miami later on down the line. How's the chat doing? I don't see a whole lot going on in the chat. How are the picks coming? You guys believing? You think I'm crazy? All right, Atlanta Falcons up at pick 15. Again, no trades. They could use a lot of help, it looks like, according to PFF, with wide receiver, edge, linebacker, and corner. Now, Pierce is already off the board, and this would have been a great position to put him in. Look, the Falcons, they finished second to last in the NFL in sacks. They need a sack. They need a mover and a shaker. They need somebody that can get to the quarterback. They need to address what has been a long-term issue in Atlanta, which has been their outside defense, right? The outside of their defense on edge. So, in my opinion, there's just not a whole lot left here in the first round unless you want to reach. That's why I do feel like there's going to be some teams that are going to want to trade. I think it's too early to take Donovan Azirikow, or however you pronounce his last name, and I do love that kid. I think he's a great pick for the Lions at pick 28 if he's still around. But the fact that they also need a corner, it's intriguing to see J.D. Barron still on the board. That guy's fun to watch as well. But you still have two edge guys in Shamar Stewart and Nick Scorton. Now, Nick Scorton has not been touted as a guy that can really set the edge by some, and then by others, he can set the edge. Now, when I've watched his tape, I think the guy does well at setting the edge at times. He doesn't have the cleanest tape all the time. I feel like he's kind of a mixed bag, but I think that also is going to come with training, right? I think it's going to come with coaching. He's massive. I mean, Nick Scorton, a 6'4", 285. He's kind of this bully ball edge defender, right? You hear me use the term bully ball quite a bit. Long arms. I believe he sets the edge, and he does a really good job at it, especially in the run game. He uses, instead of like using just power, right, and just kind of pushing guys all the time, he kind of mixes it up between a speed to power and then a power to push. He uses those long arms to be able to cover multiple holes in the running lanes too. So I like Nick Scorton. I feel like that this guy is highly underrated. I still think he's a first-round pick, even if he doesn't go this early to the Falcons. But I do like Nick over Shamar Stewart. So I think that Nick is going to be a Falcon. Okay, let's move into Cardinals, number 16. Now, this is where my notes kind of start to dive. So, Arizona. Oh, Arizona. Let's see here. Cardinals need a lot, in my opinion. I don't think that they're any one player away. Last year, man, I really thought they were a better team. I really thought they were. And at times they were. I think they're dirty. I think they're a dirty-ass team, what they did to Davenport. I think it's really dirty. I think they have to address the offensive line, though. I think that if they want Kyler Murray to be the quarterback that he can be, they need to protect him. And I think that this is where Will Campbell ends up going. If Will Campbell is still on the board, I mean, I haven't even had a wide receiver go yet. Isn't that crazy? If Will Campbell is still on the board, I think that this is where he goes. Kyler Murray needs some help, and Campbell's going to save the day. Campbell always saves the day. We know that, right? Oh, he always saves the day. All right, next guy. Next team. Bengals. What a comeback year for Joe. How does he do it again, right? How is this guy going to have a 2025 season that compares to or is even better than 2025? And the only reason why I'm mentioning Joe Burrow right now is because I feel like the offense is in dire need of another wide receiver. I really think that they need another guy to match up on the other side. Clearly didn't show it in this last season, but they need it. They also need defensive line in a bad way. And just so happens, we've got two wide receivers on the board that really should be off the board right now. They really should be. Matter of fact, some mock drafts have Burden going to the Cardinals, or at least in the top 15 or top 16, excuse me. Even though I would like to see the Bengals match up on the other side of Chase, I feel like this is where the Bengals need to improve their pass rush. And the best way to improve your pass rush is by adding an interior element. When you add an interior defensive line and you get a lot of push up the middle, that is when the edge rushers that you have on your team or your outside linebackers, they're able to win at a higher rate. So for me, it's all about the interior pass rush. And I think the Bengals are going to benefit well from defensive lineman Walter Nolan. I think he's a great fit. Now, he's a former 5-star recruit. Nolan is quick, and he's country strong, as they like to say. Nolan does his best work getting into the backfield, run or pass. You can count on him to shed quickly. He comes off a fabulous 3-year career in the SEC. He definitely would be a day one starter for the Bengals. Now, Seattle Seahawks up next. Man, do they need it. They need a center, they need a guard, they need edge, they need a linebacker, according to PFF. Sticking with Geno, from what we understand. They're going to be sticking with Geno for quarterback. So maybe you need to protect the guy. Maybe you need to take a tackle. Maybe you need to take a guard this early. Gray Zabel still being on the board is a bit interesting. Is Gray better than Amand Membu? Is he better than Josh Simmons? I'd say yes. I'd say without a doubt that Gray Zabel is better. And Seattle being where they're at, I mean, North Dakota is not that far away. I think that this is exactly where Gray Zabel is probably going to end up, given the fact that the Seattle Seahawks need some help, both, at center and guard. I think Gray could definitely fit in and play tackle at the next level, absolutely, but you could also slide him in as a guard in his first year if you really needed to. However, this is where we pivot, and I feel this is where the Seahawks are going to go defense. They're known to be a defensive-heavy team. I think they're going to stick to be a defensive-heavy team, and I think that this is going to be a good landing spot for I just had my mind made up, and then I switched it. I'm going to go Kenneth Grant here to the Seattle Seahawks, even though they really are not projecting to need a defensive lineman at this time. I think that this is where Kenneth Grant could end up. Next up, Tampa Bay. They definitely need something up front. Edge, linebacker, DB. I mean, roll the dice. I think edge makes a lot of sense. I think that there's a couple of good linebackers here in the first round that you can make an argument to make them a first-round draft pick. Both being in Donovan Knight is one. Jihad Campbell, I think, is another. Campbell's tape is getting better and better. And then you've also got Princely I'm not even going to say his last name because I can't say it. Landon Jackson sitting outside of the first round. All of these guys probably deserve some sort of a mention in the first round. Donovan Ezrakow, I really love his work. And look, I'm not going to hold back. I'm not going to hold any of these guys for the Lions. I can't do that. A lot of these guys I want to see become a Detroit Lion. I think that their tape is good. I think they're even better as an individual. But there's also been talk about Mike Green, and I just don't see it right now. I haven't. I know a lot of guys are high on Mike Green. Something's off with Mike every time I watch his tape, and that's why I need to watch it again. So I think the Bucs are going to go defense here, whether it's edge or whether it's linebacker. I don't think that you can really make a big mistake, but I think that they pivot and they go cornerback. And not only do they go cornerback, but J.D. Barron is not the next corner off the board. If this guy was on the board for the Lions at pick 28, I would not be mad. And his name is Trey Amos. Trey Amos. Cornerback, Ole Miss, Mississippi. This kid is special. And if you have not watched his tape, you will see an exact carbon copy of Terrion Arnold, right? Mixed with Amik Robertson's fierce competitiveness and hard-hitting style. Love this kid's the way he's got long arms. He mirror matches well. He stays in phase. He does everything perfect. He gets after the ball. He deflects a lot of balls. The guy makes plays. Now, I do like J.D. Barron, and I think that J.D. Barron is a phenomenal corner, but there is something about Trey Amos. If he is there at 28 and the Lions are not moving, I would not be mad. I'm just saying, I would not be mad. I know a lot of other people that will be mad, but I would not be mad. Mark my words right now, and this is until combine, right? Until we get to see if his tape matches the combine for me. That is how I do my work. And if it matches, you mark my words, if it matches, Trey is going to be somebody we're going to be talking about this time next year. And how well he played in his first season. All right, Denver Broncos at number 20. The Broncos' biggest offseason priority is adding more weapons for Bo Nix. Bo Nix had an incredible first year. They definitely need some help. Zach Ertz, Zach Ertz style of player that I see right here is Loveland. So Colston Loveland, tight end out of Michigan. Right now he's ranked 31. ADP is 29. So he is a first round style of pick here. And I think that Loveland could be a good fit here. For Bo Nix, they definitely need a tight end, and he has that Zach Ertz style of play to him. Just gritty dude, right? Sticks his shoulder into everything, not afraid to mix it up. Just as tough as they get. They could also use a wide receiver, and we haven't seen a wide receiver jump off the board yet. And this is where I think that, you could make an argument that they could take a wide receiver here. And that's where I'm going. This is going to be my first wide receiver off the board. I'm sure there's going to be one off the board before this pick. But Luther Burden, this is my pick out of Missouri going to Denver. Mike P says, Green is all speed, no moves, and not great with his hands. He's a Houston with less skill. See, that's what scares me about Green. So I'm glad I'm not the only one. That it just seems off. Something seems off about him. I'm going to have to watch him again tonight. He plays for Marshall. So, here, let me look at something real quick. Let me just pull him up. It's going to screw up the screen, but he's got elite grades everywhere. I mean, when you look at his grades, you're like, holy cow. Like, the dude just pops off the chart, right? But he went up against Ohio State, and that was it. That was about it for the entire season. That was the biggest school that they played this year. But yeah, he's 90, 91, and everything. Pass rush, run defense, true pass set, you name it. His grades are incredible. But if Mike P sees it, I believe it. Yeah, wide receivers, our wide receivers need to be a little bit taller for sure. But yeah, this draft, it has a couple of taller wide receivers that I think fit the bill. There might be one available in the third round. Just saying. All right, Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has been a defensive team for a long time, right? But their offense wasn't moving as good as it should have been this last season. And I think that they're looking for somebody that is going to be reliable. George Pickens, amazing amazing season last season with the Steelers. How do you add to that? Well, you just add another wide receiver that's going to be a good complement. They also need a quarterback. What are they doing? We don't know. And they're definitely not taking a quarterback at pick 21. They also need a DB. And there's a really good DB on the board right now named J.D. Barron. Maybe it's too early to start taking a lot more DBs. We've had one off the board so far. But you've got Tyler Warren as a tight end. You've got Emeka Egbuka. You have Titaria McMillan. Matter of fact, McMillan, he comes in at 6'5", 212. Dude is massive. You want to add somebody next to Pickens, I think this is the guy you go with. I'm not so sure that he's still ranked as high as he is, but McMillan seems like the answer to me. going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. All right, next up we got the old Bolts. Now, the Bolts need some defensive line help. They really do. Matter of fact, let me look up. Where did I put it? Yeah, too many screens open. I don't know where I put it. Oh, anyway, we'll keep moving. For the Bolts, they clearly need running back help, but I don't think in the first round. I mean, do they really? Wide receiver, tight end, edge. When I took a look at their depth chart earlier today, they still have J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, Hassan Haskins. I don't know how many of these guys are going to, be on the team this season. They have Ladd McConkey that they took last year. Great pickup. Quentin Johnston, he's, a couple seasons old now, has not been what they thought he was going to be. Joshua Palmer, I mean, he's flashy, but is he what they really need moving forward? Right? I don't think so. For me, when I look at the Chargers, I see tight end in their future. They've got Will Dissly, Tucker Fisk, Stone Smart. Don't even know who he is. Will Dissly is not the answer. Right? He's not the long-term answer here. So if they're going to go offense in the first round, it's not running back. It could be wide receiver. It could be. I mean, it really could be, because they could really use a good, number 3, number 4. They still have DJ Chark on their roster. Brendan Rice did not really come alive last year, but he could work into a much better spot. But because they have Brendan, I think they'll pass on a wide receiver in the first round. I think a tight end probably makes the most sense for them in the first round. And when you look at the defensive side of the football, Joey Bosa, it's not getting any younger. Khalil Mack, yeah, I mean, is he going to be on this roster this year? Probably not. I think he's a free agent this year. So strong safety and free safety, I mean, they're okay. Alohi Gilman might be one that you could probably upgrade. Is it too early to take a safety? Absolutely not. But again, I think it's tight end here. And I do like a couple of tight ends in this draft. Tyler Warren, really unique ability. I really like what he does, and I think that this is where he goes. I think that Tyler Warren is going to make his presence felt as a Charger. Penn State, Tyler Warren, going pick number 22 to the Bolts. And then we got the Green Bay Packers, and this is going to be their draft, right? Draft's going to be in Green Bay. I honestly don't think that the Green Bay Packers are going to sit around. I really don't. I don't think that they're going to sit around at all. I think that they're going to try to make a big splash. I think they're definitely going to try to move forward in this draft. And what do they need? What don't they need? That's the question. What don't they need? Well, I think that you always want to give your quarterback a weapon, right? Let's take a look at their depth chart real quick. I love when I've already looked at all this stuff, so it's like Chrome already knows. I type the word GRE, and it's like, oh, yeah, depth chart. That's what you want. So Jordan Love, obviously the quarterback, Josh Jacobs, running back, wide receiver. They've got Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson. I mean, hell of a trio, right? Brought in Bo Melton last year. They got Dontavian Wicks. Pretty solid when you look at their roster, but do they have another dynamic playmaker when one of the top 3 go down? That's the question. So is it a wide receiver draft? Not so sure. They doubled down on tight ends. They have Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave, so they're definitely not taking a tight end. How about offensive line? I mean, their offensive line wasn't great. I mean, they weren't terrible, but they weren't great either. When we look at the offensive line rankings for 2024, according to PFF anyway. Let's see. The Packers were number 6. I have no idea how they ended up as number 6 and how the Lions ended up as number 4. I had the Lions down like at number 6, but I definitely didn't have Green Bay at number 6. Green Bay needs a center in a bad way. And right now, if you were to take a center, I think it would be way early. There's definitely not a first-round center, so that's not happening. Between Elgden Jenkins and Sean Ryan, Zach Tom, Rasheed Walker, I mean, the answer is yes, 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 and yes. Fix the offensive line. I think the most important development for the Packers offensive line in 24 was learning that Rasheed Walker, his 2023 season was not a fluke. So he's the only one that I feel is going to stick around, or at least for the long term, he's going to stick around. Green Bay really couldn't satisfy Jordan Love. I mean, seemed like he was always on the run. They tried to incorporate a first-round pick into Jordan Morgan into the lineup at right guard, but he earned a 59.1 overall grade before he was cut short to injury. So we know they have a tackle, right, a left tackle, and we know that they have Jordan Morgan, right, which he should have a bounce-back year. They still need a tackle, and they still need a guard, in my opinion. Who's on the board right now that makes sense? And would Green Bay do this? Probably not, because they want to make a splash, right? But Josh Simmons, if he's really still here and he's, slid down to 23, yeah, it probably makes a ton of sense to take a tackle. It really does. But when you look at the other needs that they have on this team, wide receiver, edge, and corner, and there's a couple of edge and corners sticking out like a sore thumb right now, probably going to see them pull for the edge. I mean, they're going to want to get after Detroit as much as they, can possibly get after us, which isn't going to be much. Defensive line, they've got Kenny Clark, Devonta Wyatt, Rashawn Gary, and Lucas Van Ness. Behind them, they could probably use some more depth. They're really deep according to their depth chart right now, like really deep. I haven't seen a team this deep in a long time. I think that the answer here is they're probably going to go defensive line, which it could be defensive line, defensive tackle, or it could be edge. But I'm going to roll Shamar Stewart right here. I know he's slotted to be number 20, number 21.5 overall, at least per PFF. These rankings never hold up in the draft, but I think Shamar Stewart makes some sense. But I also feel that if they're going to go after a corner, then this is when you take J.D. Barron. And I think that's where I'm going to go. I'm going to go J.D. Barron to the Green Bay Packers simply because they have a lot to contend with the Detroit Lions. And then next up, we have the Vikings. Yeah, I think Green Bay is moving up too. Drafted quarterback. Punter. They're taking a punter. All right, Vikings. Obviously, the biggest question for the Vikings this year, are they going to start J.J. McCarthy? Probably. Are they going to roll with Sam Darnold and pay him? It depends on what kind of contract. I don't think you can deny what the Vikings have in store right now. They have Daniel Jones sitting on their chart, J.J. McCarthy, and Sam Darnold. That is a good problem to have. Let's just assume JJ is a starter. Well, I would not put out to pasture. I wouldn't say that they wouldn't put out TJ Hawkinson to pasture, but they could. They might look to move off of him. He has not been that exciting. He's been injured the last couple seasons. Maybe it's time to move off of TJ. He's not a good blocker downfield. I mean, he just doesn't do much. So I'm not a big fan of TJ, never really was. So for that respect, go ahead and keep him, Green Bay, because he's just not that great, in my opinion, of a tight end. But I think they really need some help on the line, right? I mean, they brought in, what they got? They got Darashaw. I don't even know who Brandel is. They got Bradbury, Risner, and O'Neal. And I think that they're definitely going to want to shore up their offensive line for Jordan Love and bring in some camp competition. And I think that pick is probably going to be Josh Connerly Jr., quite honestly. I think that's the smartest move for the Vikings, is to shore up their offensive line. Now, they do need a right guard. He's not a right guard, but when you look at Josh Connerly, he's 6'4", 315, so he's not extremely tall, which playing guard would be, good spot for him, not being that tall. Let me go back and look here. Does he play any guard? No, he's played left tackle his whole career. So, wouldn't really be a good fit for him. Membu's played right tackle, so right guard would be a more natural fit for him. So Membu could be a good option for them here, but this is where I'm going to go. I think that, they're going to want to get their offense flying again this year, and I think that this is where we're going to see another tight end off the board, and that is going to be Colston Loveland, Michigan, tight end going to Minnesota, and Hawkinson is going to be wearing his doormat out here pretty soon. Next up is going to be the Texans. According to PFF, they need a wide receiver, some offensive line help, and defensive line help. And when I look at the Texans, I think that there's none other than interior offensive line help that makes the most sense. You're going to want to give C.J. Stroud some more opportunity to throw the football and not be running around like crazy like he was this last season. He could use another weapon as well as far as a wide receiver. Emeka Egbuka is one that comes to mind. Still on the board. Not a whole lot of wide receivers going early in my draft. There's just not a whole lot of wide receivers going early, period. Jack Betch, really loved what he did in the bowl games. Fun to watch. But we also have some defensive linemen that need to get off this board. And there's one other offensive lineman that I think is going to go. So, in my opinion, this pick for the Texans, it's either going to be between Gray Zabel, even though he's not a center or a guard. I think that Gray Zabel could be an interesting option. When you look at his stats, he has played left guard in his first 2 years, and right tackle and left tackle. So, he's someone that can move around. So I do like Gray Zabel here going to the Texans, but I also like Shamar Stewart, even though they don't need another edge. He is someone that makes sense here. And lastly, defensive line. So on the defensive line for the Texans, who do they have here? Let me go back to their depth chart. They were pretty thick last year. So they have Will Anderson, they have Fatikasi, Daniil Hunter, Aziz Al-Shair, and Tim Settle. And behind them, Danico Autry. I can't remember if Danico Autry is signed for multiple seasons or not. So they're pretty solid. I mean, if anything, they really need a defensive tackle. Someone that they could bring in and start to groom. But going out just a little bit and going into their future, what they're going to need down the line and where they're going to want to spend a first-round draft pick, I mean, you still have an option of a wide receiver. You got Matthew Golden. Makes a lot of sense. Makes a ton of sense, actually. But I'm going to have to go Gray Zabel, I think, here. I think that Gray makes the most sense. I think they're going to bring this guy in and put him in at guard. So Gray's off the board. Next up, the Rams, man, they really went deep at defense last year, and they showed everybody that they know how to draft defense. Braden Fisk, Jared Verse, incredible year. We just don't know what's going on with the Rams right now. Are they getting rid of Matthew Stafford or not? Are they getting rid of Cooper Kupp? More than likely. If they get rid of Cooper and Stafford, this is a light rebuild now. So what are they going to do at quarterback? Who's going to step in? That means they're going to need a receiver at a minimum. They need someone to bring in. They're going to need some offensive line to help their quarterback out if it's not Matthew Stafford. The Rams just really haven't drafted any offensive linemen in round one in more than a decade, though. And that's shocking to me. It's really shocking to me. They're in bad need in a bad way of an offensive tackle. Alaric Jackson is a free agent. Rob Havenstein has a non-guaranteed year left on his deal. So it kind of makes sense that this is where either Membu, Josh Simmons, or Josh Connerly could end up. But then again, man, if you're staring down the gun and you're looking at, if you're looking at one of these linebackers that's still on the board right now, like, or defensive lineman, TJ Sanders, watched his tape last night. Whew, I'm impressed. Where's the other guy? You still got Landon Jackson, Jihad Campbell. I can't believe I forgot about those guys. They should have been gone by now. All right. So, Rams, tight end, not happening. Tackle, good play. Linebacker, corner. I just don't see him taking a tackle. They haven't done it in a decade. Why are they going to do it now? If patterns speak anything, they're not going to do it. They could really use a corner. But I think they're going to go linebacker. I truly do. And I think that the one guy that I absolutely love, Demetrius Knight, could end up on their board. And matter of fact, I think it's going to be Jihad Campbell. I think that Jihad's going to be a first rounder. And I think this is where he goes. I love Jihad too. I think that Brad's got him on his board without a doubt. But man, the way that they're building out this team, this defense, might as well make a strength a strength. It makes sense, Jack. 21-25. I'll show you my work here when I'm done with the first round on all the measurements and all the guys. Okay, next up we got Baltimore Ravens. Now they have to get offensive line help. They do. They absolutely do. And I don't think that there's anyone else in this draft that even makes more sense than the Ravens. They definitely have to get a tackle. Josh Simmons shouldn't be on the board. He's now a Raven. Now we're at pick 28. And we're going to pick that right when we get back. Is here and you want the latest news and rumors on your Detroit Lions. Head to sportspider.com. That's sports, SPYDER.com, where you can get your Lions news and all your sports in one place. Man, this site is packed with your favorite podcasts, live news, articles from local writers, and insiders, all updating in real time. Not just the Lions, every major sports team, including MMA, UFC, and so much more. Don't want to waste time searching? Sign up for free. Create your ultimate sports news hub. You control what hits your feed at SportsSpider, your number one source for all your sports. Visit sportspider.com today, right after the show. All right. There is so much the Lions could do right here. There is so much they could do. They're at 28. Everyone is steamed up. They want to edge in a bad way. Oh, where's my guy at? Okay, there he is. But there is a guy that is still on the board that I just don't think you can walk away from. Why is that? Why is he labeled as Alabama? Hold on. So I do a lot of work behind the scenes in building what is called roster roulette. And I want to share something with you guys. And I was going to share it tomorrow morning. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Oops, I got to go to the side. So I'm gonna give you guys a term, and I want to ask you if you know what it is, without googling. If you are in the sports industry at all, you should know this, okay? And you should know it for just about any sport. So here's the term. And this is something. So the other night I happened to catch a little bit of Crunch Time, and it was Klotzy, I think, that said something about wingspan. And my response was, man, finally, somebody else mentioning wingspan. I never hear anybody talk about wingspan but me. I never hear anyone, cry so much about arm length but me. I have to have guys that have the right size arms, but more importantly, wingspan has to go with it. You may have a little bit shorter arms, and you may have a lot longer wingspan, and I'll explain what that means. And then all the work that I did, I'm going to show you at the end, because what I'm going to ask you guys next is, do you know what your APE index is? And that's APE. Yes, APE. Like monkey, right? APE index. Do you know what that is? And if you don't know what it is, I'm going to tell you. So, Maureen says wingspan often talked about with basketball players. Absolutely. Guess who else? Swimmers. Even though you don't have to have extremely wide wingspan to be a great swimmer. Michael Phelps had one of the best wingspans, and that's why he holds like 26 gold medals around his neck or whatever he has. But, elite swimmers, climbers, NBA players, you name it, they all thrive on a wingspan. Now, here is what an APE index is. An APE index is a term that was taken from none the less of rock climbing. Seeing how I'm really deferring here, I'm picking 28. It refers to your height to your wingspan ratio. So first you want to measure your wingspan, right? Put your arms out, measure it tip to tip. And then you want to divide by your height. And then that gives you a typical ratio. And if you're an average individual, that ratio should be 1, right? You should be just about equal between your wingspan and your height. But the higher the number, it means that your wingspan is wider. Now, what this means to me when I look at, let me give you the comparison here. Michael Phelps, right? He had a wingspan. He was of 6'6". He was 6'4", and he had a wingspan of 6'6". So he was pretty much 1.03, 1.025, which means that depending on which version of the APE index you use, he had a more, better than average wingspan. But here's what I think that the wingspan means to me. And just after watching, a lot of different football players over the years and their arm length and everything else. Number one, if you have a wide wingspan, right, that means that your chest, or wide wingspan and shorter arms, right? So if you're Aiden Hutchinson and you're 6'7", and here I can pull it up, and you have a wingspan of come on. So Aiden Hutchinson, where you at, buddy? Aiden Hutchinson, here we go. 6'7". He had a wingspan of 78 and an eighth. So, 6'7" is 72 plus 7 is 79. So his height is taller than his wingspan. That's a bad thing, right? That means you have shorter arms. And his arms are only 32 and an eighth. So how is it, or why is it important that you want to have a good wingspan if you have shorter arms? Well, here's why. Aiden is so broad in the shoulders. He's so wide. That could mean to an NFL, evaluator, hey, he's got shorter arms, big wingspan. That means we can bulk him up a little bit more. He has more frame we can add some weight to this guy. He might come in at 250. He's light at 6'7", 250, 255. We can get him up to 270, 275 easily because he's wide, right? More of the V shape. We can add some bulk to that frame. So that is one of the things that I evaluate. It's one of the things I've always keyed in on: arm length, wingspan. So it goes the other way too. What if you're a little bit shorter? What if you're only 6'4" or 6'3"? But your wingspan is 82 inches. Well, now you've got like a +9 or +8 inch wingspan. And that puts you into a higher ape index. So you may already be bulked up, right? You might, okay, we know, okay, this guy is bulked up already. We're not going to add a ton to his frame. But man, does he have 34.5-inch arms or 33.5-inch arms or 34-inch arms? And he's a corner. Well, a corner with a long arm, you're going to have a much better career in the NFL, being able to tip those balls, get your hands around the receiver, whatever, right? Longer arms is better. Always been better. As a tackle in the NFL and as a defensive end in the NFL, your number one way to get around a tackle or to keep a defensive end from getting in on you is outstretched arms, whether it's one, right, or two, and you're kind of going back and forth, or you're holding with a long arm. Mike P will tell you how incredible it is to have a player with long arms as a right or left tackle or right or left defensive end. Long arms help. If you can get those tackles off of you, you can then rip under and over, or under and through, or up and under, whatever. Swim moves, chop moves, you can use them all. The goal is just to get around them, and having long arms can help you do that. So that's the long way for me telling you that this is just one of the things that I look at and why I feel it's very important that the Lions do it the right way. And why it's super important that your offensive line is filled out the right way. Can't have a bunch of short guys with short arms or tall guys with short arms. You just can't. You can have some shorter guys as long as they have long arms. So that's where it does work in the other direction. The wingspan, your ape index, is something to pay attention to. I know nobody else talks about it. I'm glad I do, but that's just the nerd in me. He said the pick expired. All right, here we go. So, guy that I checked out, I just had to go and check my numbers on him real quick. And he checks out. So, his arms are 33 and, let's just say 33 and 5/8. Okay, 33 and 5/8. So, it's, inch and a half longer than Aiden's. And this guy is 6'4"-ish. 273 pounds. He's got 10 and a quarter inch hands, and he has a pretty big wingspan of 82. I'm sorry. God, my eyes are bugging on me. 82 and 3/4 inches. So his ape index is in the category of 1.07. 1.07. And on my chart, he's in what I consider to be the great category. I have 5 categories. I have rare, great, average, below average, and concerned. So thankfully, he's up in the great category, and he's up in the average to better than average category and everything else. And his name is Landon Jackson. And I am super impressed with his tape and his body of work. I think that if the Lions are going to take an edge, it does not have to happen in the first round. I think that taking a defensive line like TJ Sanders or Demetrius Knight, taking a linebacker, I think it makes even more sense because I do believe there's going to be some more opportunity for all 3 of those positions in the second round. But the Lions are sitting at 60. And remember, we're not doing trades. So if I knew that the Lions were going to be picking at 40 again, I would not take an edge right now. I would take an edge at 40. I would take a defensive lineman, a cornerback, or a linebacker that you're not going to find at 40 and that you're definitely not going to find at 60. So Landon Jackson is my pick right now. My second best pick here is Donovan Ezra-Cow. Love both of these guys. I do like Princely. Princely's tape is starting to come around on me a little bit, but Landon Jackson is my pick for the Detroit Lions. Now, Landon, let's get into his measurements. Let me bring him up. Let's talk about him here for just a moment. I'm not just going to give us a pick and then not talk about him. I just got to get some things in front of me here. Now, I would love to have an edge that had 34-inch arms. I absolutely would love it. But see, I'm looking, the other reason why I was talking about ape index is because if your arms are even a little bit shorter, like I was saying, and the wing is really long, that means from shoulder to shoulder, you're really wide. So when you outstretch an arm and you're bending around a corner and you're using your inside arm, you're longer, right? So that means if you're longer, you can stay off the tackle. So I give Aiden a shitload of flack, excuse my French, because of his short T-Rex arms. But he has a pretty good wing. I'm sorry, he doesn't have a very good wing, and that's why. That's why we need someone else to be on the other side of Aiden that has what he doesn't have, which is longer arms, longer, taller wing, and someone that can just crush that pocket, but get around, right? Aiden he's all bull rush and a spin. And I think he's developed that spin because of his arms, right? Because of his wing, he had to find something else to use, which is the spin move. You don't necessarily need a spin move when you have longer arms and a longer wing. Now, Aiden's used it to his benefit. I mean, he's figured out a way to win, and that's not a bad thing. But I know that if he had a little bit longer arms, he would be absolutely unstoppable. You would not be able to stop him at all. So let's take a look at Landon Jackson here. I'm going to call him Action Jackson, hopefully. Out of Arkansas. All right. Big old bald head of Landon here. 6'7", 280 pounds, 6.5 sacks last year, 1 fumble forced, 49 tackles, 28 of them by the way of solo. He's right now ranked as the 8th overall edge rusher in this draft. His height at 6'7" is in elite status. He's got 10 1/8 inch or 10 1/4 inch hands, depending on which one you're looking at. Which I don't know why they have him in the top 61%, but when I go through this last thing that I wanted to go through tonight, I think you'll see why. 40, blazing, 4.68. I think Aiden ran a 4.76, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a blazing 40 for this guy and how big he is. 33 5/8 inch arms, perfect. 280 pounds, perfect. He's the other Marcus Davenport, right? You know, the bigger end. Big wingspan. He's in the elite. 82 6/8 inches, top 87% percentile. Now, his overall ranking, who are we comparing this guy to? Lucas Van Ness, Keon White, Isaiah Foskey. I'm not too high on those. I really don't think that's 3 guys that I would compare him to. But his draft profile is this. He went from Texas high school as a legend to the SEC. He was a standout. Wasn't exactly a straight line. Being a standout wasn't a straight line for Landon, but the Texarkana native, I'm not sure what that means, terrorized offenses at Pleasant Grove High School, racking up an eye-popping 45 career sacks in high school. He earned Texas 4A Defensive Player of the Year honors. Dominant prep career made him one of the most sought-after defensive line prospects in the 21 class. Programs like Alabama, LSU, Tennessee all vied for his services. Now, he landed at LSU. His career took an unexpected turn. A quiet freshman season in Baton Rouge led to him to transfer to Arkansas, where he would then transform from a promising prospect to an all-SEC performer. So I'm loving this adversity, right? He went through some adversity. How are you going to turn that around, Landon? You just went through some adversity. Tell me how you're going to turn that around and continue with your career. A lot of guys don't do that. And I just had a conversation this weekend with someone that's going to be coming on the program as a guest, and he's a college prospect entering the draft. And his story, love it. Love his story. He's a Detroit Lion all day. I don't know where he wants to go, but his story is something that I want to talk about. But anyway, so Jackson's 2024 season further cemented his status as one of the SEC's most disruptive defenders. He became the first Razorback to record sacks in 3 consecutive games since 2022. highlighted by a dominant stretch against Ole Miss, Texas, and Louisiana Tech. His signature performance came against Texas A&M, where he notched 8 tackles and 2 sacks, becoming the only Razorback since 1997 to record multiple games with 8+ tackles, 3+ TFLs, and 2 sacks. That's crazy. Crazy numbers. Now, he was a second-team All-American, consistent, havoc-wreaking edge, earned him spots on the Nagurski Trophy, the Chuck Bernardic Award, and the Lombardi Award, which lists before his season was cut short by an injury against Missouri. Here's his strengths: devastating length and power at the point of attack. He shows advanced hand technique and pass rush. Hand technique is big for me. And I feel like that's the one thing that Aiden's missing is the hand fighting, the hand technique. I hope Aiden's spending some time this offseason learning some sort of MMA somewhere. Excellent edge setter. That's key, right? So when you think about what we have already, we have the bull rush. We have the super high motor, right? The twin turbo Tesla in Aiden, right? Just burning off the edge. And then we brought in Davenport this last year. And we brought in Davenport because he was one of the best edge-setting defensive ends in the game. Landon is that guy. Nick Scorton is that guy. Big-time edge setters. So that's what we need. He throws a nasty cross-chop move and shows how to set up his counters. So someone that's thinking a move ahead, someone that's already countering these tackles, that's what we need, right? Excellent edge setter who plays with natural leverage. Now, the one thing that I love the pick, right? I love Landon, but the one thing that I look at too is height. And the fact that he's also 6'7" and Aiden is 6'7", that doesn't make me crazy excited, but honestly, my perfect edge rusher, which I'm going to show you in a minute, is like 6'4", 6'4.5", because of the pad level, right? Playing with leverage. But he can play with pad level even at 6'7". Pad level is key. And if you can't play with pad level, it doesn't matter what you have, because you won't be able to use it as far as moves go. Brings serious juice as a stunter, which is also key, because I'm expecting with our new defensive coordinator, Calvin Shepard, that maybe we're going to see guys moving around a little bit more, right? Stunting a little bit more. I think that will be key to our defense in 25. High football IQ, relentless motor from snap to whistle, versatile defensive line piece, shows that he can win from multiple alignments between the 3 tech and the wide 9, which is another key to our defense. Some of his weaknesses, though, everyone has them. Limited bend, and flexibility around the arc. That's okay, right? He's going to have to find another way to win, which he can use his long frame, use his long arms, utilize his hand fighting, setting up his counters the right way, but just setting the edge. That's the most important. He's going to be more probably of a bull rush guy. If his flexibility really is that bad, I can't say that I've noticed it, but someone else is seeing something that I'm not. His initial get off is more methodical than explosive. I didn't see that either. I think that I was good with his explosiveness, but again, it's going to be the broad jump, the vertical, and the 10 split that are going to tell me what is your get off going to be off the line. If your broad is weak, pass. If your broad is okay and your vertical is good, I'm in. If your 10 split is better in the 40, then those things, they all work together. There's a formula there to figure out, are these guys going to be able to pop off the line? And then once we refine their technique, can they use it all to their advantage? So still developing. Who isn't? I'm 45 this year. I'm still developing. So everyone's developing. I think you develop until you die. All right, I'm going to come back to these chat comments here in just a moment. Let me finish out. We've got a few picks left. So Washington needs a wide receiver, tackle, edge, corner. Mike Green, is he going to slip this far? Probably. I don't even think he makes it in the first round, but there's no reason why Washington wouldn't bring in Egbuka. I had him going in the first round. Buffalo Bills, they need defensive line, linebacker, and corner. I hate to even do this because I love this dude, but if they really need a linebacker as bad as I think that they do, I think that you're going to see Demetrius Knight make his way into the first round. I really do. But the Buffalo Bills needing a corner or a wide receiver first. Look, Josh Allen would love to have Matthew Golden. As far as the Kansas City Chiefs go, they definitely need someone to help out Patrick Mahomes. He got his ass kicked against the Eagles. Membu is off the board. And then last but not least, your Eagles. I don't know what they need. I mean, when you look at what they just did this past season, pretty impressive. Do they need another cornerback in the hopper? They do because of Darius Slay. Wide receiver, probably. Guard, more than likely. I still think it's early to take a guard. Edge, I think that's another opportunity for them. Shamar Stewart's off the board. So that is the first round. Let's eat some caramels. What does this say? Oops, that play isn't in our playbook just yet. Select up to 3 teams to get customized insights. I don't know what that is. Let me download that. Did they grade it? No, they didn't even give me a grade. Whatever. So, that's your mock. What do you guys think? Let's see here. Kevin Barr says Landon Jackson is a reach. Probably wouldn't be there at 60. No, he won't be there at 60. The only other guy that I would have taken above Landon is Donovan Ezrakow. Love his work. Absolutely love his work. But Landon, he's rated at 39. So if you're picking at 28, is 11 spots really a reach? I don't think so. Not in my book. Ed O'Neill says, bold of you to not pick a Bama player for the 4th straight. Yeah, it is. I don't even know who was available. Who was available? Jihad Campbell was gone. I don't know who was available. Here, let me restart. Let me see who was there. There's nobody in the top 40. Remember, this is no trades. The only Bama guy that I really like in the first round is that Jihad Campbell. And he's ranked 41. Tyler Booker, a guard? Yeah, I don't see that happening. Yeah, I don't see any Bama guys. I really don't. All right, let's see here. There's plenty of bums with long arms. Yeah, not many. And I'll prove it to you right now. You can coach hands. Yes, you can. Absolutely, you can. Jared Ivey, Jordan Birch. I like both of those guys too. Absolutely. I just don't see like where we're picking at 28 that we have a bunch of good options. Like it is such a tough spot. All right, let me share something with you guys. I need to add a let me pull up my spreadsheet. I've been spending so much time on this that the whole weekend has just been lost. But it matters because this is what gets me into the draft and gets me very close. All this work. It is not for nothing. Keep telling myself that. All right. Now, I put a picture up of this. Okay. I'm going to make it a little smaller. Okay, so what this is this is the full breakdown of all the measurements that I have so far. And you got D-line, right? And you'll start seeing all these bright, funny colors. And you'll see that how nuts I get with this stuff. But I created something that's called roster roulette. And this is something that I'm tracking now for a couple of seasons. One, it's going to end up telling me where Brad Holmes is going to draft or where any team should probably draft, but I'm only focused on the Lions because I can't do all 32 teams unless I got paid for it. I couldn't waste that amount of my life not doing that for free. Edge, you've got linebackers, we've got corners, we've got safeties, we got QB, O-line, running back, wide receiver, tight end. Then you got best of all time. Okay, this one I love. So this is the one that I was putting together today so I could share it with you guys. So I wanted to pick, some of the best to do it ever. And what are their measurements, right? What do they do right, as far as, well, I guess they can't do it right because they were born that way. But what do their measurements help them do right, I guess is the better question. So let's take a look. Now, I can tell you right now, purple is rare. Red is great. Green is average. Blue is below average. And then this gold color is concerned, right? Has me concerned. Now, I'll say that these measurements are also elite measurements, meaning if you're not elite at your position in the NFL already, these measurements are going to be a little bit better than your average NFL player. So by elite standards, when I look at when can we grab an elite player in the draft, what measurements do they need to fit that when we look, across a few years, a decade or 2 decades of athletes, how do these measurements stack? And what can we pull from all of these guys? So I tried to pull just pure defensive ends, right? I'll make this bigger just so we can all see it together. I tried to pull some pure defensive ends. Now, some of these guys may not fit. It's hard. And then I did their ape score too. So J.J. Watt, right? He's 77.25 inches, which is 7'5". He's 290 pounds, which is up. Now, weight is not, there's no really a rare, elite factor for weight. But from this category, I had to put something in there. Hand size clearly is rare. Arm size is great. Now, the way I score this is down here. So for arm length, anything greater than 34.5 inches is rare, right? Anything greater than 33.5 inches is great. Anything greater than 33 but less than 33.5 is average. Anything that's greater than 32 but below 33 is below average. And then anything below 32, I'm concerned, right? Hand size greater than 11 is great or is rare. You see where I'm going here, right? But then I added scores. So if you get a purple, you get 5 points. If you get a red, you get 4. If you get a green, you get 3. A blue, you get 2. And if you get the bronze color, you get 1. Okay. So what is my perfect mix? When I look at the averages, 76.42 inches. So that's 7'4" and just under a half an inch. So 7'4". We'll just call it 7'4" and 3/8. We'll just call it that. To me, or I'm sorry, 6'4" and 3/8. To me, that is the perfect size defensive end. But who did we compare it to? J.J. Watt, T.J. Watt, Nick Bosa, Myles Garrett, Cameron Jordan, Daniil Hunter, Jared Verse. I got to have a rookie in every year. Khalil Mack, Zadarius Smith, Joey Bosa, DeMarcus Lawrence, Eric Armstead, Shaquille Barrett, Montez Sweat, Brian Burns, Trey Hendrickson, Josh Allen, Max Crosby, Aiden Hutchinson, Jalen Phillips, Alex Highsmith, Matthew Judon. Would anybody disagree that I don't have a pretty damn good list, right? Pretty damn good football players. So it's crazy that when you look at the height, you've only got a couple of guys that got elite grades. And that's because they're extremely tall. Eric Armstead, 6'7" and 1/8. Aiden Hutchinson, 6'6" and like 5/8. Some say he's 6'7". So those are the only 2 elite heights that we got out of this entire list of, like 23 guys or whatever. So I went through the height. Now we'll talk about Aiden here for just a moment, down here. Okay. You look at Aiden, he has elite size, rare size, right? Great weight compared to his height. Good size hands, right? Great size hands. He's below average in arm length at 32 and an eighth. In his wingspan, I'm concerned. He's the only one that ended up with a concerning grade for the wingspan, which again is below. That's going to be below. It's over here to the right. Where is it? Oh, it's up here. I'm sorry. Anything that is below 1 is concerning. Anything below 1 is concerning. And what that means is if your height and your wingspan is not a 1, then you're shorter than your wingspan. That's not your wingspan shorter than your height. That's not good. And especially if you have short arms to go with it, that's not good either. So that was my big thing on Aiden when he was coming out. Those are the 2 things that really scared me away from him. But you'll see the reason why I do it this way is because you might have a guy that's elite that doesn't have a couple of correct measurables. But something they have helps them, bend that curve a little bit, if you will, of being an elite player. So here's my perfect score is a 39. In my opinion, if you're going to be an elite athlete, in which some of these elite athletes you will be able to get in the draft, well, you've got to be between 6'3" and 6'5". You have to be between 260 and 275. You have to have hands greater than 10 inches. And I only went with an average hand size there because I'm expecting your arms to be at least 33 and a half inches or better. Your APE score, in my opinion, has to be 1.07. You need to have a wider wingspan than you do height, but I don't need it to be elite rare. I just need it to be elite great. In your 40, 4.51 to 460. 10 split, 159 to 162. Vertical, greater than 36 inches. Your broad, this has to be elite. Your broad is everything, in my opinion. Your bench, I'm not so high on bench, so I went with average, okay? I think everyone can hit the average. I can't hit the average. I'm too old, but so with all the scores over here, right, we did a measurement score, and then we did an agility score, and then we totaled them out. Our average out of all of these guys, our average was a 33. They scored an 18 on measurement and a 16 on agility. And there somehow was an average of 33 and not 34. I don't know why, but that's just what it did. I don't think you guys can even see that, can you? Here, let me fix that. Might make it a little bit smaller. Let's slide it over a little bit. There we go. Now you can see it. So, yeah, when I roll down, you can see that my score down here in the middle, right down here, is a 39. And the average up here, right over here where it says 33, that's the average score we had out of all of these elite guys. Why am I a 39? Well, who even came close to a 39? I think that's the answer, right there. That's the question we have to answer. Who did have a 39? Well, J.J. Watt did. T.J. Watt had a 36. Nick Bosa had a 44. Cameron Jordan had a 40. And that's it. Those are the guys that all had a 39. So I think when you look at my score, yeah, it's probably a bit much. I'm probably asking for too much. I probably need to be closer to a 36. What did Aiden have? Aiden scored a 33, which ended up being our average. The average was 33. So he scored average out of all of these elite players. He hit the average right on the head. And that's because when you go to the right and you start looking at, okay, he ran a 4.7, 440. He had a 1.61 split. He had a 36-inch vertical. Oh, his broad fell off, 117. And then 28, was his bench. He put up 225 28 times. He had a lot of red, right? Only one elite, a lot of red. He had one bronze and a couple of blue. So over the rest of his body and physique and ability and agility, that's how he's able to be a 33, which is an average elite player if you consider all of these guys elite. So I could probably change my score a little bit, right? I could probably drive that score down a little bit and not be so sticky on certain things. But the reason why I went with an elite broad is I want to go through the guys that have an elite broad. TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, Daniil Hunter, Jared Verse, Khalil Mack, Montez Sweat, Brian Burns, Jalen Phillips, Alex Highsmith. I think that we can all agree that all of these guys have an extremely good get-off. An extremely good get-off off the line. So that's why I want an elite broad. And when you averaged all of these broads out, well, you have to be 125 or better, right? And that's why down here it's 125 or better. Bench, again, I could really care less. You got a lot of guys in here that got bronze, right? They couldn't even put it up 21 times or more. Or what's the number? Yeah, greater than 22. 22 or better will get you just in the below average. We only had a couple of guys that got elite. J.J. Watt, Myles Garrett, and Jared Verse. Jared Verse is an absolute animal. So now you can see why. Last year when I had him in this, now you can see why. He scored a 36. Now you can see why he was my number one overall defensive end. Or outside linebacker. It depends on what system he's going to be in. Clearly, my system works so far. It's going to have to get worked on every year. It's not perfect. It's getting there, but, anything that's good comes with time. So, anyway, that's what I do, man. This is why I like to have the conversations that I have. This is why I get a few things right and not a whole lot wrong. I mean, I get plenty wrong, but when it comes to stuff like this, I know athletes, and I think I have a pretty good grasp on who they can be and who they already are. And when I'm pretty firm on a player that I feel doesn't make the cut, I haven't missed on a lot of them. There's been a couple that have really surprised me. But Jared Verse was a lock. It was a rocks lock last year. I wish we would have got him. That is a guy that I wouldn't have been so mad about not taking a corner in the first round. Obviously, Terrian had he had a growing season. We'll call it that. He had a growing season, and it wasn't bad. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. I just hope that he has a much better second season ahead. So, all right, questions? Anything to kind of finish out the night? Damn, it's 11 o'clock. Holy cow. Damn, didn't I start this at 8:30? What am I doing? I got to get up do the morning show. Better the hunt. We took Landon Jackson. So, all right, I'll see you guys back here in the morning. I got to get to bed. Actually, I still got work to do. But I got to get to bed soon. So, you guys have a wonderful night. Go Detroit Lions. Go win pride. See you back here at 8 a.m. You guys have a good night. Take care.
Detroit Lions will